John. To everyone else watching this, what we're about to do is go through basically just some of the embellishments contained in the Piobaireachd Duncan Macrae of Kintail's Lament. Now, as a rider to this, there are 3 different settings of Duncan Macrae of Kintail's Lament that I've seen. This one is contained in bagpipemusic.com, which might be free, I think, but bagpipemusic.com for this particular setting. It's also known as Colin Macrae of Piobaireachd Laments, which is in the Jimmy Mackintosh collection, and also known as the March of the King of Laois, just across the Irish Sea, if I've got the pronunciation of that right. Anyway, John, the first thing we're going to look at then is at the end of bar 4 and recurring throughout the tune. We have the C and the grip back to C. The C is played, the initial C is played very rapidly, and we hold on to the themal note of the C at the end of the bar, which is also the end of the phrase. So it's a rapid C, a grip to C, which is the rapid C, the low G, a D grace note to low G, and then recovering back up to C. Now, when you recover back up to C, the important point, as we've discussed, is to come from low G and raise the B finger and the C finger together. So if we slow the movement down, it's going to sound like this. But the C is actually played quite fast. As usual with small pipes, these are C small pipes, but with any small pipe, if you're going to include Highland pipe embellishments in it, you're better being relatively deliberate. If you try and go too fast, a lot of the time it just doesn't work, especially with a smaller chanter. So what we're going to have a look at then is the first line, because we'll have 4 of these, and we'll also play the cadence, which is the second thing we're going to have a look at the end of the line, and we'll discuss that after. So very slowly and deliberately. If I was going to practice that C grip, the way it's played in the that line in the urler there, or the ground, use the E before it. E, C grip, E, C grip, something like this. Over and over until you're getting pretty much 99% of them right, and then of course it does have to go back in the tune, so play it in the tune as well. So we come along to the end of line number 1 and we encounter the cadence. This is a cadence to B. Just scanning through the tune here, I don't see any cadences to C in the tune. So we'll just go through the cadence to B. The cadence to B starts with a G grace note to a long E. If you look very carefully at the notation here, you'll see that the G grace note is written as a grace note, a 32nd note, a demi-semi-quaver. The E is written as a quaver, which is an 8th note. And in true Piobaireachd strangeness, we actually play it a little bit longer than that as well. He-yo, that's what we're looking for. So he-yo, look upon it as a G grace note to an E. Then we come through the D, we'll have a look at that in a little minute, through to the B. And as we're going to close off with a G grace note to the low A, I think we'll just incorporate that here as well. So just to talk you through that before I start up here, it's a G grace note to the E, and we're going to come through a D. Now because the D is an embellishment, it's a single D finger, then down to the B, finally closing off with a low G grace note to A. G grace note to E, hold that E through the single D finger, down to the B, close down and up to the A again. Now when you're coming, you've got your G grace note to the E, the single D finger, be careful to lift the B finger up before the D comes down, and you want to avoid any crossing noise there. The C is a little bit simpler because we do use the full D going down to the C. But this is the B. Now, the G grace note to the E is very long. The D can be, it doesn't have to be too quick, you know, it can be quite big. You're looking for a rolling effect here. So within limits, the D can be reasonably big as well. I mean, it's not a grace note. Well, it is a grace note, but it's a big grace note. It's part of the embellishment. So we'll have a wee look at that again. Take your time with the E, G grace note to the E, and then you think about what's happening next. Now, I know the next note, the low A with the G grace note in front of it, isn't part of that cadence there, but it's in the contents of the tune you're going to put it in, so I think you should tie the same, the two together there. So, one last thing to have a look at, and it's right at the end of the ground here, or the urler, and it's your herein. Now, the way it's notated there is you've got a G grace note to a crotchet E, and then we go into the embellishment, which if you have a look at it is a D and then a burl. The burl starting on the A, of course, not the low G. The whole thing is the herein. That's, for those looking in, that's H-I-H-A-R-I-N. It's kind of like the cadence. G grace note to a long E. This time the E is actually portrayed pretty much the way it should be played. You can hold on to it longer, because don't forget this is also the end of the urler, and we're looking for some sort of subtle pause there as well before we move on to the next variation. So it's quite convenient finishing with a here, and it gives you a nice breaking note, a nice pause note. So let's have a look at what we're going to be doing here. It's quite similar to the cadence actually, which is a bit convenient. A G grace note to an E, through the D, single finger D again this time, down to the low A, and then the burl. Now, I find it quite handy to think about that through the D, low A, burl. I don't think D, burl, because I like to hear that low A at the start of the burl. It's part of the burl. It's missed out a lot of the time. A lot of people try and just go right down to low G. Try and put the low A in the burl. Says herein. So let's have a look at this. Now, that's pretty much it. So you can practice these things individually. What we'll do is let's have a look through the ground here. We'll play the whole ground because is there anything else for you? Wait a minute. I'm thinking about a videre somewhere. There's one more thing in the last line. So there's a videre on the F. I always get this mixed up. It's either a videre or a dare. So if you look at line 3, excuse me a minute, I'm going to plug you in here so that we don't, that was a bird hitting the window. I hope it's okay. But so we don't lose power on the machine, let's plug you in. Should be okay now. So yeah, you have the videre or the dari. It's either I think it's a videre when it comes down from, when it goes up from below. A dari if it goes down from above. It might be the other way around. Videre, V-E-D-A-R-E, and dari, D-A-R-E. Anyway, this is contained in line 3 and bar number 3 as well. So what we have, again, we're going to use the D before it, a G grace note to a D, and then we're going to come up to the F. We're on the embellishment now, down to E, a G grace note on the E, and up to the F. Let's go through that again. So coming from the D, F, E, G grace note E, and F. Now, on Highland pipes, I play this quite deliberately because I want to make sure I've got it right. There are those superhumans amongst us who can just wiggle the fingers and it'll work, but I know that if I try that, it'll work 90% of the time, and when it really matters, I'll make a mess of it. So I do play this one very deliberately. It's Piobaireachd, you can take your time with it as well. So just go through that one more time. G grace note to D, G grace note to D, F, E, G grace note to E, and back to the F, and we hold that F because we're now in the themal note. Let's have a look at that. That's your videre. I'm going to take a chance and say it's a videre. What we'll do is let's go through the whole thing and hope that I do get through the whole thing without any major errors. If I make any major errors, we're staying with this recording. So here we go. Nice and deliberate so that you can follow it, but it'll be nice and deliberate anyway. As you noticed, what I forgot to look at when I was scanning there, you actually have 3 videres in there, line 3, bars 1, 2 and 3. And the other thing which might be worth noting just now is line 3 right at the very start. Looks like an embellishment again. It's a G grace note to a long E and down. Don't try and put any form of G grace note and an E grace note on top of it down to low A. We're going to cover that as well. I'll actually do the last part. I made a mess of the first videre anyway. So a G grace note to an E and then down to the A. If you picture, again, the G grace note is written as a 32nd note or a demi-semi-quaver. The E is written as a quaver, Again, it's just a little bit longer than that. You get to play with that E. It's at the start of a phrase, so it's almost yours to do with as you wish. But it's a long E, G, grace note to E, and then down to the A. So finally, we have a thrown D in that bar. Again, if you look at the thrown D closely, you'll see that the low G portion of the throw is twice the length of the other components of the embellishments. So it's a big low G, in other words, which I'm always asking for anyway. So let's have a look at, so we'll have a quick run through this G grace note to E and down to A first, and then we'll take that line again. Thing worth saying is the very last bar there, just watch that grace note sequence, G grace note to C, E grace note down to low A, and a D grace note back up to the C. It's quite a natural way of putting things, but it's not a G, D and E, it's a G grace note, E grace note down, and recovering from low A with that D grace note, which is quite a natural way to put it. The next set right next to it there, G grace note, D grace note, and it's low G this time, and back up to B. So I hope this covered everything. Long-winded as usual, and sorry it took so long.